My name is Clara. I live in a small flat on the third floor of a building in the city center. Last month, someone moved into the flat next door. For the first week, I only heard sounds, boxes moving, music playing softly, and someone walking back and forth. I was curious, but I felt a little nervous about saying hello. One morning, I decided to be brave. I baked some cookies. They were simple chocolate chip cookies, not perfect, but they smelled wonderful. I put them in a small paper bag. I walked to the door next to mine and knocked. Once, twice. I waited. Then the door opened. A young woman stood there. She had short dark hair and a friendly smile. She looked surprised, but happy. "Hello," I said. "I am Clara. I live next door. I made these for you. Welcome to the building." She looked at the bag of cookies. Then she looked at me. "Oh. Thank you so much," she said. "I am Mia. Please come in." Her flat was still a little messy, boxes everywhere, pictures on the floor, books in small piles. But it felt warm and lived in already. We sat at her kitchen table. She made tea. We talked for almost 2 hours. She told me she was a teacher at a school near the park. She had moved from a small town in the north. "I did not know anyone here," she said. "I was worried about that." "I understand," I said. "I moved here 3 years ago. It was hard at first." We ate the cookies together. She said they were delicious, even though one side was a little too dark. Before I left, she said, "Would you like to have dinner together on Friday? I am a good cook." "I would love that," I said. Now, every Friday, we have dinner at her flat or mine. We take turns cooking. Last week, she made a soup from her grandmother's recipe. It was the best soup I have ever had. I am glad I knocked on that door. Sometimes, one small action can change everything. Last spring, I took a long train journey from the city to a small town by the sea. I had never been there before. My friend Anna told me it was beautiful, so I decided to go for a weekend. I arrived at the station early. The platform was busy. People carried bags, checked their phones, and drank coffee from paper cups. I found my seat and put my bag in the space above my head. The train was supposed to leave at 9 o'clock. But at 9:15, a message came on the speaker. There was a delay. The train would leave at 9:45 instead. I sat down and looked around the carriage. The seats were comfortable. There were not many people in my part of the train, an older man reading a newspaper, a young woman with headphones, and a mother with 2 small children. One of the children, a little boy with red shoes, walked over to me. He was maybe 4 years old. "Hello," he said. "Hello," I said. "What is your name?" "Leo," he said. "I like your bag." My bag was green with small yellow stars on it. I bought it at a market a few years ago. "Thank you," I said. "I like your shoes." He looked down at his feet, very pleased. Then his mother called him back. At 9:45, the train finally moved. I looked out of the window. First, I saw tall buildings and roads. Then, slowly, the city became smaller and the countryside appeared. Green fields, trees, cows, a river. The journey took 2 hours and 40 minutes. I listened to music, ate a sandwich, and watched the scenery change. It was peaceful and relaxing. When the train arrived at the seaside town, the sun was shining. I could smell the sea before I even saw it. I walked out of the station and turned left, as Anna had told me. And there it was, the sea, wide and blue, with small waves coming to the shore. I stood there for a moment and smiled. The delay did not matter anymore. I was here. When I was 22 years old, I could not cook. I mean, I really could not cook. I could make toast. I could boil water for pasta. That was almost everything. My grandmother was a wonderful cook. She could make a full meal in 1 hour, with no stress, no mess, and everything tasted perfect. I always admired her, but I never learned from her while I had the chance. One day, I decided to change. I called her and said, "Grandma, will you teach me to cook?" "Of course," she said. "Come on Saturday." I arrived at her house at 10 in the morning. She was already in the kitchen, wearing her blue apron. The table had many things on it: vegetables, meat, oil, salt, and herbs. "Today, we make chicken soup," she said. "It is a good place to start." She showed me how to cut an onion. I did it badly, and my eyes watered from the onion smell. She laughed kindly and showed me again. "Hold the knife like this," she said. "Go slowly. There is no hurry." We put oil in a big pot. We added the onion. We waited. We stirred. The kitchen started to smell wonderful. "You have to be patient with food," she said. "If you rush, you make mistakes." I added the chicken pieces. I added the carrots and potatoes. Then my grandmother said, "Add the salt. Not too much. Taste as you go." I tasted the soup. It needed more salt. I added a little. I tasted again. Better. "Good," she said. "Now we wait." While the soup cooked, she told me stories. She talked about her own mother, who taught her to cook in a small village kitchen. She talked about the years when food was difficult to find, and how she learned to make simple ingredients taste good. When the soup was ready, we ate together at her kitchen table. It was not perfect, the carrots were a little too soft, but it was real food that I had made myself. "You did well," my grandmother said. I went back every Saturday for 3 months. I learned to make bread, pasta, roasted vegetables, and a fish dish from her old recipe book. Now I cook every week. I am still not as good as my grandmother. But I am getting better. And every time I make her soup, I think of her, standing in that kitchen, patient and kind, saying, "Go slowly. There is no hurry." My name is David. 6 months ago, I had a very important job interview. It was for a position at a small publishing company. I love books, and I wanted that job very much. I prepared for 2 weeks. I read about the company. I practiced answering questions in front of my bathroom mirror. I ironed my best shirt. I went to bed early the night before. But on the morning of the interview, I woke up with a terrible stomach ache. I was so nervous. I arrived at the office 10 minutes early. The building was modern and clean. A friendly woman at the reception desk smiled at me and offered me water. "The interview will start in 5 minutes," she said. I sat and looked at my notes one more time. Then a door opened. A tall man with glasses came out. "David? I am Mr. Park. Come in, please." The interview room was small and bright. There were two people, Mr. Park and a woman called Ms. Chen. They were both polite and calm. They asked me standard questions. Why do you want this job? What are your strengths? Tell us about a difficult situation at work. I answered as clearly as I could. I spoke slowly, because I knew I sometimes talk too fast when I am nervous. I tried to smile. Then Mr. Park asked me a harder question. Tell us about a time you made a mistake at work. I paused. I could have said something safe, something easy. But instead, I decided to be honest. I told them about a project at my last job where I misunderstood the instructions and sent the wrong document to a client. I explained what happened, how I fixed it, and what I learned. There was a short silence. Then Ms. Chen nodded. "Thank you for being honest," she said. "That is a quality we value here." At the end, they asked if I had any questions. I asked about the team and the kinds of books they published. I left the building not knowing if I had done well. I walked to the park nearby and sat on a bench for a while. 3 days later, I received an email. I got the job. I now work at the company 3 days a week. It is not perfect, no job is. But I like my colleagues, I like the work, and every day I learn something new. I got Bruno 3 years ago, from an animal shelter on the edge of town. I was not planning to get a dog that day. I went there to drop off some old blankets they had asked for on their website. But when I walked past the kennels, I saw him. He was a medium-sized brown dog with floppy ears and big dark eyes. He was sitting very still, looking straight at me. I stopped. He tilted his head a little, as if he was asking a question. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds. Then I asked a staff member, "How long has this dog been here?" 8 months, she said. 8 months. That seemed like a very long time. I filled in the paperwork that afternoon. I named him Bruno, after a dog I had as a child. The first week was not easy. Bruno was nervous in my flat. He paced around, sniffed everything, and would not eat very much. At night, he slept near the front door, as if he was not sure he would stay. I was patient. I spoke to him quietly. I gave him time. By the second week, he started sleeping next to my bed. By the third week, he would run to the door whenever I came home. Now, Bruno and I have a routine. We wake up at 7. We go for a walk in the park for 30 minutes, longer on weekends. He loves the big open field where he can run without a lead. When I work from home, he sleeps under my desk. When I eat, he sits beside my chair, full of hope. He has made me more active, more regular, and honestly, a little more happy. On difficult days, when I feel tired or low, his calm company is a comfort. People sometimes say, "He is lucky to have you." I always say the same thing, I am the lucky one. Bruno is old now, nearly 10 years old for a dog is quite elderly. His face is getting gray and he walks a little slower. But every morning, he still tilts his head at me, and I still smile every time. Last Tuesday, I lost my wallet. I did not notice at first. I came home from the supermarket, made dinner, and sat down to watch television. Then I wanted to check something on my phone and I put my hand in my bag. No wallet. I looked in every pocket of my coat. I looked under the sofa. I checked the kitchen counter. Nothing. I tried to remember where I had it last. I paid at the supermarket. I put it back in my bag. Or did I? I was not sure. I called the supermarket. The phone rang for a long time. Finally, someone answered. Hello, lost and found. Can I help you? Yes, hello. I think I left my wallet at your checkout today. It is brown, with a small red zip. What time were you here? Around 4 o'clock. Checkout number 3, I think. Please hold. I waited. I felt nervous. My wallet had my bank cards, my library card, and a small photo of my dog from when he was a puppy. The cards I could replace. But that photo, I did not have another copy. The person came back on the phone. Yes, we have it. Someone found it on the floor near the checkout and gave it to us. I felt so relieved. I said thank you many times. The next morning, I went to collect it. Everything was there, the cards, the money, the photo. Nothing was missing. I asked the cashier if they knew who had found it. She smiled and pointed to an older man in a green jacket who was shopping nearby. I walked over to him. Excuse me. Did you find a wallet yesterday? He looked at me, a little surprised. Yes, I did. It was mine. Thank you so much. Really? He waved his hand, as if it was nothing. Anyone would do the same, he said. But I am not sure that is true. He did something kind and honest, and I am grateful for it. I still think about that sometimes, when I am having a difficult day. I bought a gym membership in January. This is something many people do in January, and many people stop going in February. I was determined to be different. On my first day, I felt nervous walking through the door. The gym was large and bright. There were rows of treadmills, big metal machines, and weights in many sizes. Everyone seemed to know exactly what they were doing. I did not. A young man at the desk gave me a tour. He showed me the changing rooms, the lockers, the different areas for cardio and weights. He spoke quickly and used words I did not always understand. Any questions? He asked at the end. Many, I said. He laughed. That helped. I started on the treadmill because it seemed the simplest. Walk. That I could do. I walked for 20 minutes at a slow speed. I watched the other people around me, some were running fast, some were lifting heavy weights, one woman was doing something complicated with a large rubber ball. I felt a little embarrassed about how slow I was going. But I told myself, everyone starts somewhere. After the treadmill, I tried one of the weight machines. I read the instructions on the side. I adjusted the seat. I pulled the handles down slowly, once, twice, 10 times. It was harder than it looked. A woman on the machine next to me glanced over. Good form, she said simply, and went back to her own exercise. 2 small words. But they made me feel much better. I stayed for 45 minutes in total. When I left, my legs were tired and my arms felt weak. But I also felt proud. I went back on Thursday. And the following Monday. And the one after that. By March, I knew the names of the machines. I knew which locker was best and when the gym was quiet. I could run for 10 minutes without stopping, which I could not do before. Progress is slow. But it is real. Now it is June. I still go twice a week. I am not fast or strong, but I am consistent. And consistency, I have learned, is more important than speed. There is a bookshop near my office that I walk past every day. It is very small, just one room, really, with shelves from floor to ceiling and a narrow path between them. The sign above the door is old and painted by hand. For a long time I only walked past. I never went inside. One rainy Wednesday, I finished work early. I did not want to wait for the bus in the rain. I looked up and saw the bookshop. I pushed open the door. Inside, it smelled of old paper and wood. The shelves were full, not in a messy way, but in a rich, complete way, like the shelves of someone who has read everything. There was soft music playing from a small radio behind the counter. An old man sat on a stool near the back. He had white hair, round glasses, and was reading a thick book. He looked up when I came in. "Good afternoon," he said. "Good afternoon. I am just looking, if that is all right." "Of course. Take your time." I browsed slowly. There were sections for history, poetry, travel, science, and fiction. Many books I had never heard of. Some had handwritten notes inside the front cover, the previous owner's name, a date, sometimes a short message. I picked up a small blue book of short stories. The cover was a little worn. I opened it and read the first paragraph. It was beautiful. Simple and clear, but somehow deep. I brought it to the counter. "A good choice," the old man said, looking at the cover. "That writer is not well known, but very good. If you enjoy it, come back. I have 2 more of his books." "Do you remember everything you sell?" I asked. He smiled. "Most of it. Books are like people. Once you know them, you do not forget." I paid €3 for the book. €3. I read it that evening in one sitting. Then I went back on Friday. The old man smiled when he saw me. "You finished it already," he said. It was not a question. "Yes. I would like the other 2, please." Now I stop at the bookshop every week. I have discovered writers I never knew before. And I always look forward to the old man's recommendations. Last Sunday, it rained all day. Not light rain, heavy, gray rain that covered the windows and made the street outside look blurry. I had plans. I was going to visit the market in the morning, meet a friend for lunch, and maybe go to the park in the afternoon. All of that became impossible. At first, I felt restless. I walked from the living room to the kitchen and back. I picked up my phone, put it down, picked it up again. I looked at the rain and sighed. Then I decided to accept the day for what it was. I made a big pot of coffee. I put on my warmest socks. I found a blanket and put it on the sofa. I chose a book I had been meaning to read for months, a novel about a woman who travels across South America. I started reading. By midday, I had forgotten about the rain. I was somewhere in the mountains of Colombia, following the main character through a small village market. The writing was vivid and slow. I did not rush. Around 1 o'clock, I got hungry. I looked in my fridge. There was not much, some eggs, cheese, half an onion, and a few mushrooms. I made an omelette. It was simple and warm and exactly what I needed. I ate at the table, not on the sofa, just to change the feeling of the room. Outside, the rain was still falling. In the afternoon, I wrote some letters. Real letters, on paper, with a pen. I wrote to my aunt who lives far away. I wrote to an old school friend I had not spoken to in a year. I did not write much in each letter, just a few paragraphs about how I was, what I was reading, what the weather was like. By evening, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. I sat by the window with my second cup of coffee and watched the street. A couple walked past, sharing one umbrella. I felt calm. Not excited, not productive, not busy, just calm. Sometimes a day with no plans is the best kind of day. It reminds you that being still is not the same as wasting time. I learned to ride a bicycle when I was 7 years old. It took a whole summer. My father bought me a small red bicycle in June. It had a white basket on the front and yellow streamers on the handles. I loved it immediately. But learning to ride it was a different matter. The first problem was balance. As soon as my father let go of the back of the seat, I fell. Left, right, forward, I fell in every direction. My knees were always dirty and sometimes a little bloody. I wanted to give up many times. "Can I keep the extra wheels?" I asked my father one afternoon. Extra wheels, small wheels on each side that help you balance. "You do not need them," he said. "You are ready." "I am not ready," I said. "You are braver than you think," he said. Every evening after dinner, we went to the quiet road behind our house. My father held the back of the bicycle. I pedaled. He ran beside me. Then, without telling me, he let go. I rode for 3 seconds before I wobbled and stopped. "Did you feel that?" he said. "Feel what?" "You were doing it. By yourself." I had not noticed. But something changed in me after that. I understood that I could do it. I just needed to trust myself. By the end of July, I could ride in a straight line. By August, I could turn corners. By September, I rode to school for the first time. I remember that morning clearly. My mother stood at the gate and waved. I rode down the street, turned left at the corner, and felt the wind on my face. I felt completely free. I am an adult now and I still ride a bicycle. On my way to work, on weekends, in the rain sometimes. People sometimes say cycling is difficult or dangerous in the city. Maybe. But when I am riding, I still feel something of what I felt that September morning, a little bit free, and a little bit proud of myself. My father was right. I was braver than I thought.